Here are the table of contents of our presentation today. So first, I'll be explaining on the definition of emotional and logical reasoning. Second will be how mind and emotion are related. Third will be the past studies or argument by scholars. The fourth will be the advantages and disadvantages of both types of thinking. Fifth will be Islamic perspective, and the last will be conclusion. So here are the definition of emotion. It is derived from a French word which means to stir up, and then it both become the French word emotion, which means in a social context moving, stirring, and agitation. And then it also claimed that emotion derived from a Latin word which means to move up or agitate. Emotion basically can be referred as a strong mental or instinctive feeling involving bodily processes and mental state according to Oxford Dictionary. It can be summarized that emotion are the feeling aspect of consciousness characterized by certain physical arousal, certain behavior that expresses the feeling to the outside world, and inner awareness of feeling. To give a clearer example, I use the Plutchik interpretation of emotion. According to him, there are 8 basic or primary emotions, which include anger, anticipation, joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, and disgust. Now that we understand the meaning of emotion, we can move on to the emotional reasoning. So emotional reasoning refers to the use of subjective emotion rather than evidence to form a conclusion about oneself or the surrounding. For example, that lecturer is a very strict person because I always feel afraid of her, or I feel anxious, there must be something bad going to be happen. Now moving on to the logical reasoning. First, we must understand what is logic. So logic derived from a Greek word that means thought or reason. So it's basically can be referred to rational justification or rational reason for arguments. Now we move on to the definition of logical reasoning. It refers to a form of thinking in which premises and relations between premises are used in a rigorous manner to infer or to form a conclusion that are entailed or implied by the premises and the relation. In a simpler word, logical reasoning, we are using a reasonable mind, and with that, we are not tapping into emotion or moral value, rather we are ruled by logic. So basically, through logical and abstract reasoning, abstract rules, analogies, and structures which are used, we can find a correct answer among a set of possible options. For example, we weigh all available options using facts and figures, the pros and cons before deciding a career or any other decision. Another examples of logical reasoning is deductive reasoning.
Thank you, Sister Balkis. My name is Siti Noraida binti Rusli, and my metric number is 2012216. Now, I will present about how mind and emotion related. Okay, to begin with, the heart is commonly associated with emotions among society. Emotion is complex yet effortless for us to understand. There are different kinds of emotions according to a study by Carantino, Andrea, and Ronald D. Souza. There are better and worse instances of emotions, as they are commonly understood. For example, fear is better example of emotion than amazement, as well as borderline cases like boredom, where ordinary language users are divided on whether they qualify as emotions. Some emotions are occurrences, example given such as panic, while others are disposition such as hostility. Some are short-lived such as anger, while others are long-lived such as grief. Some involve primitive cognitive processes such as fear of a suddenly looming object, while others involve sophisticated cognitive processes such as fear of losing a chess match. And some are conscious, examples such as disgust about something, and some have strong motive to act, for example fury, while others don't, such as sadness. Some are universal, such as fear, whereas others are exclusive to humans, such as scandal fruit and so forth. Okay, how emotion and mind are related. According to a 2017 study, human cognitive processes such as learning, perception, attention, memory, reasoning, and problem solving are all influenced by emotion. Emotion has a particularly significant impact on attention, influence attention selectivity, as well as inspiring action and behavior. Because naturally, limited attentional capacities are better focused on relevant information, this attentional and executive control is directly linked to learning processes. Emotion also aids in the efficient encoding and retrieval of information. So to explain more, emotions and thoughts have a significant impact on one another. For example, if an individual worried about a approaching job interview, then it might cause the individual to feel anxiety, which then the individual might assess the anxiety as a not realistic fear. And furthermore, how we pay attention to and evaluate our experiences has an impact on how we feel. For another example, a person who despises Islam is likely hyper-aware of Muslims in their immediate vicinity and regard Muslim approaching as menacing and unpleasant, leading to emotional hostility. Meanwhile, a person who respects and does not despise Islam will react to the same occurrence with a completely different emotional response. Thank you, that's all from me. Next, I will pass to the next presenter, Sister Aisha.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aisha Anur Fitri binti Farman. My metric number is 201.90. So I'll proceed to the next part of the presentation, which is the case study. So before we going through, I love to share one quote that I have found throughout my research. Okay, it stated that the head is thought to be rational and cold, whereas the heart is thought to be emotional and warm. So basically, we have identified two case studies. The first case study, okay, is basically about Ferdinand and Michael D. Robinson and Adam K. Ferdinand, okay, that are publishing is 17 June 2018. It's basically about introduce a novel individual differences variable, one asking people to look at the self in the head or in the heart, respectively of sex differences. Head locators characterize themselves as rational, logical, and interpersonally cool, whereas heart locators characterize themselves as emotional, feminine, and interpersonally warm. So the result of the case study and the finding of the first case study, which is case study 1, it's basically the head and the heart are both viewed as a source of wisdom in common metaphors. Like for this reason, they expected a relatively even split of heart locating and head locating individuals. Women are both viewed themselves as more emotional in nature, and it is based on Robinson and Clough 2002. And for this reason, and because the heart is the purport organ of the emotionally, they hypothesized that women, relative to men, would be more likely to think of the self as located in the heart. Okay, now we proceed to the second case study. Okay, the second case study, which is case study 2, the researcher name was Michael Schwenters, a founder and a chief human officer leadership from the core, and date of publishing the article is 22 November 2017. And as the result of the finding, 79% of the people that Medical Alert Bodyguard polled said that they use their head to make a decision, but only 31% use their heart. And not only that, 68 agree that following one's heart when making business decisions cloud judgment, and 64% also believe that following one's head over heart when choosing a career is pivotal to success. Okay, so we proceed to the next one, which is the scholar view on our topic, which is mind versus heart. So first and foremost, we want to know about Plato's views on this matter. So based on Trans 1987, was among the first to suggest that the head is the source of rational wisdom, whereas the heart is the source of the patient. The second scholar that we look into is Barrett. Okay, Barrett suggested that emotion were both biologically evidenced and socially constructed, and according to her conceptual act theory, Barrett 2006, Barrett 2013, Barrett and Kensinger 2010 also stated that physical state and action can be transformed into different emotion, expression under different social contexts. Okay, so last but not least, we look into Aristotle's point of view of this matter. So Aristotle believed that the mind was in the heart. Compared to other organs such as lungs and brain, existed simply to cool and cushion the heart. As a firm cardiocentrist, he supported the idea that the heart was the root of intelligence and believed that it was the source of love in the body. That's all for me. I'll pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Logic is, by definition, a method of decision making that uses sound and rational decision making to get the optimal result. Emotions, on the other hand, are genuine emotion. If logic is the brain, emotion is the heart, then happiness is found in the heart. Being rational is thought to be great, whereas being irrational or emotional is assumed to be negative and leads to error. But is it true? Actually, each type of thinking has its advantages and disadvantages. So, what are the advantages of logical thinking? You respond to logic when you are in your reasonable thinking. Values are not necessarily in focus, not even emotions. This is a very important state to be in during a crisis situation where you must remain tightly focused and cool-headed. For example, if you are the nation's leader and you want to declare wars on other countries, you need to think logically. Okay, next. What are the disadvantages of logical thinking? When you always think logically, it's difficult to feel inspired, creative, infatuated, and joyous. It's also tough to feel the unpleasant but necessary emotion we need to live a rich, fulfilling life, such as grief for what we cherish and lose, affection for what we wish to nurture, and rage against what resents us. After all, logic requires emotion. Logic cannot always be fulfilled in the absence of emotions, particularly when it comes to decisions that affect life pleasure. On the other hand, you respond to your gut, feelings, and moods when you are in emotional mind. You are not paying attention to logic and reason, and you are not always taking the time to assess facts and with evidence. This is a great mental state for spontaneous creation, like when watching a musician singing makes you inspired to sign up for vocal training. Emotional thinking also may make you want to take risks. It could be the encouragement you need to take that leap of faith. If we simply had an emotional mind, we will be fatigued by all of its exciting, unpredictable, and ever-changing impulses. Others might be exhausted keeping up with us. It might lead us taking more chances than we should, or it can cause us to become so engrossed in our ideas that we lose sight of reality. It is difficult to live a stable existence with long-term relationship when we are all emotion and no reason. In addition, emotion can lie. Things that you feel may not actually be what is the best for you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Akila Nuha Mitullah, and I'm going to present the next part of our presentation, which is the Islamic perspective. So this includes the sources and method of thinking according to Islam. So first of all, the foremost source of thinking according to Islam is the revelation, which is the Al-Quran and also As-Sunnah. So the Quranic guidance and discussions are against any kind of blind imitation and ignorance. So critical thinking is essential in Muslim intellectual life to reach the element of Jahiliyah. So we can understood thinking as the faculty that makes man so distinct from any other creatures. Also, as mentioned in Surah Al-Fusilat in the Quran, which means we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. So this verse explains that as a Muslim and as a human, we should observe and study the signs of the truth in the whole universe. Okay, so next we're going to look into the concept of tafakkur and tadabbur. But before that, I would like to mention that the thinking process, according to the Western philosophy, revolves around the faculty of reasoning only. Meanwhile, in Islam, faith is an important aspect in distinguishing between the good and the bad. Alright, so that is the difference between the Western and the Islamic perspective. So, looking into the concept of tafakkur, tafakkur is an act of contemplation, reflection, training, and tadabbur that encompass the human intellect, heart, and also spirituality. So, according to this definition, we can conclude that Islamic perspective also emphasize the role of heart, or as we know it, the qalb, in thinking. So, tafakkur is one of the most essential weapons for humans to use in their efforts to guard themselves from making bad judgments and to strengthen their faith towards Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Last but not least, I would like to conclude that the thinking can be based on both the mind and also the heart. And it's crucial to remember that both aspects of mind and the heart are the aspects that is fundamentals to make up a good solution for thinking. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Islamic perspective also should be followed by us Muslims, because that is the guidance that were revealed by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala to early ummah and also the prophets. That's all from me, and I think that concludes our presentation. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum.